We begin with the investigation into the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. The congressional committee investigating the attack is expected to unveil new details tonight on live television.
That's right. The Capitol siege is the largest criminal investigation in American history. 5 people are dead and more than 800 defendants have been charged. The committee has completed more than 1,000 interviews and gathered over 140,000 records. This comes despite a boycott and fierce criticism by nearly all Republicans. The January 6th committee accuses former President Donald Trump of being part of a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States. The GOP held a media event earlier today to address tonight's hearing.
Speaker Pelosi's Select Committee on January 6th is unlike any other committee in American history. In fact, it is the most political and least legitimate committee in American history. It has used congressional subpoenas to attack Republicans, violate due process, and infringe on the political speech of private citizens.
For more, let's bring in CBS News Chief Washington Correspondent Major Garrett. Hi, Major. Thanks for being here.
Sure.
What can we expect from tonight's hearing, and what are lawmakers trying to gain by presenting this to the public tonight?
I'll get to that in just one second, but just a couple of points on what we heard the House Republican leaders talk about. On one level, they're making a legitimate political argument, one that the Special Select Committee on January 6th has a huge challenge to address tonight, which is why so much attention on this particular subject, what happened January 6th, what led up to it, and not other more pressing issues. And the country clearly, across party lines, is much more interested in inflation, gas prices to a certain extent, immigration, the baby formula crisis. All those things are real, and American voters want some solutions from Washington on that. So when Republicans raise that, yes, it's a partisan tool to try to shift blame and attention, but it's also consistent with what polling data has told us. So the January 6th Select Committee really does have to answer that question. Why so much attention to this? One other thing I want to address that we heard the House Republicans talk about, because I think it's really important for people to remember this. They said there's all these questions about security and communications and preparations that are not being asked and answered. Well, let's just remember some procedural history here. There was a proposal to create a national commission to investigate January 6th, a bipartisan national commission. The House passed that. It would have asked and answered all those questions. It's in the legislation itself. Senate Republicans killed that national commission. That national commission had a date to present a final report to the country in December of last year. All this would have been over had Senate Republicans authorized and voted for that national commission to look into January 6th. That's why we have a special select committee now, because a bipartisan effort to create a national commission with a fixed deadline of last year was defeated by Senate Republicans. So when House Republicans say they have all these really legitimate, serious questions they want asked and answered, there was an opportunity to do just that, and their Senate Republican colleagues killed it. Now, to your broader question about tonight, the Select Committee has to do two things. One, dramatize what happened on January 6th, and not just what happened on that day, but what they will argue led up to it. And the words you're going to hear are words we're not accustomed to hearing in American political discourse: conspiracy and coup. That this was an elaborate and intentional effort by the executive branch to subvert the peaceful transfer of presidential power. The other thing they have to tell the country is we're going to be here a while. This is not the only hearing. There'll be many hearings, many witnesses, many of them drawn from the executive branch itself. That is to say, former President Trump's own administration. And it is the hope of the Select Committee that it will be that testimony and those witnesses who will describe, based on their own eyewitness observation, what former President Trump did to expedite and make nearly successful these two words we rarely hear: conspiracy and coup.
Major, these are incredibly powerful and important accusations, of course. And ahead of tonight's hearing, this CBS News poll, which you mentioned, shows 70% of Americans think it is at least somewhat important to find out what happened on January 6th and who was involved. So how does this public opinion impact this sort of investigation, especially in light of what we heard the GOP talking about? How is the committee accounting for that 30% of people who say they will be tuning it out?
Yeah, there will be a certain number of partisan Republicans who will just say, look, I am tuning this out because this is an attack on former President Trump. I don't think this was all that bad. And they have sort of washed their hands of the notion that this was a dramatic, visible assault on American democracy. Well, they're going to stay where they are. They're going to be in their camp. They've been there since the 2020 election. Very unlikely this select committee and its televised hearings, primetime or otherwise, are going to dislodge them. But the rest of the country, despite its legitimate concerns about other issues, inflation, baby formula, immigration, and the like, do want to know what really went on, what led up to this. Because for a while, this looked like a sort of massive spasm, like a genuine, spontaneous riot. The committee will say it was that in some elements, but it was much more planned. And that is to say, those who incited the crowd, who encouraged them to come to Washington, who fed them this monstrous lie about a stolen and rigged presidential election, did so with intent. And that intent had a conspiratorial cast to it. And if you don't understand the motives and the means by which that crowd was motivated and inspired and incited to come to Washington and then storm the Capitol, then you don't really understand the full story. That's the burden of the committee, to put all of those things together, not just tonight, but in subsequent hearings.
All right. Well, Major Garrett, thank you so much. We'll, of course, be checking in with you later tonight. We appreciate your insight. And you can stream our coverage of the January 6th committee hearing starting at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, right here on CBS News.